Hi guys, okay, welcome back. So today we are going to be reviewing a book that was mentioned in the book Dark Fleet, and that's what made me want to buy the book and read it. I thought it was going to be a lot. Hold on, I think I need to fix my stand here. I thought it was going to be a lot more about her military experiences with the underground bases, with the MILABs, which is military abductions instead of alien abductions. That's what MILABs means. And I thought I was going to focus a lot more on her journeys going to the moon and being there and then coming back and being like de-aged. I don't know if she was one of those that got de-aged or not after working for 20 years on the moon, but if you read the book Dark Fleet or watched my video, you would know a lot about that 20 and back program where they take them to the moon as slaves for 20 years, bring them back to Earth and de-age them. It's a lot of time manipulation that they're doing. It's a lot of the reptilians and the Nazis that are on the moon. This book focused a lot on it was very much like DNA in the sands of time, in the way of when it gets to the point of the book where it talks about how to live holistically and stuff like that. I felt like it was very much that. It was very repetitive. I did enjoy it though, from what the new stuff that I learned. I did enjoy it. I'm not saying anything bad about it, but it was very, very repetitive, I think. And it talks a lot about 9/11 and other like what you would call conspiracies, which I don't think are conspiracies. I think they're just different angles of a truth. And so it talks a lot about that. And yeah, I'm just going to give you guys the notes that I took. But this is the book, Facing the Shadow, Embracing the Light, by Niara, Terela, Isley. I think that's how you pronounce it. Sorry if I butcher it. It's ginormous. It's like almost 500 pages. And it's not just that it's almost 500 pages, but there's so many words in the book, and it's also very, very dense, like the information. So it took me a while to read. It took me about like a week. Yeah, I think it was like a week. And anything that was repeated again from previous chapters, which she does a lot, I literally just skip over it because she literally already talked about it many times. So this is how the book looks. It's supposed to be her, I guess, in outer space, looking at the sun, I guess, or I don't know what star system. But that's that, and that's how it looks. It's basically brown. It's like a brownish, reddish. On the camera it looks reddish, but it's more brown in real life. I'd say it's brown. This is more of the red part, but this is more brown. Anyways, that's the book. I got it from Amazon. And the first thing I wrote on my notes was to read page 31. Okay, so it's called Dreaming of Extraterrestrial Craft. One of the few good things that happened in this relationship was a camping trip where Kevin took me to a place called Warren Light Center outside of Franklin in northwestern Pennsylvania. It was a magical time in a lot of ways, being out in nature that I love so much, and one of the nights there I had a remarkable dream. I dreamed of an extraterrestrial spacecraft and was shown its basic design and operating principles. It was saucer-shaped, and in the design, which was very simple and elegant, around the inside of the base of the craft were 6 donut or torus-shaped electromagnetic coils, meaning they function like electromagnetic coils, but were just smooth metal tori. These 6 tori were evenly positioned around the inside of the base of the saucer. I don't remember there being any wiring that connected them to anything, but in the center of the craft where a pilot would sit, there was a console that I knew was activated by the thought energy of the pilot, like a neural interface, without any wires or connections to the pilot, other than a hand or maybe even the body sitting in the seat connected to or touching the craft. He or she would just think or intend where they wanted to go, and the console would transmit this by field energetics as coordinates. These thought energetic field coordinates then activated the magnetic field in the tori and generated the correct field in them to interface with the magnetic field at the location on or above the planet. Basically, the craft and its technology operated like the extended body of the pilot neurologically. The interface between pilot, craft, console, and Tori would make the speed of thought corrections to the magnetic field generated by the Tori to move the craft in any direction at whatever speed the pilot wanted to move. I woke up from this dream amazed and excited by the details I remembered and by the idea of such a propulsion system, which I understood from being such a good science student, could work at least in theory, though it was extremely advanced in comparison to our clunky, pollution-spewing automobiles, planes, or even our space shuttles. So now the next page is 47. Just what is memory? In trying to piece together memories, I realized that memory is associative and has what I call a fractal dispersion. It forms linking chains that have many associative connections called clustering, the organization of related information into specific and overlapping groups. I would add that these groups of related information are arranged in ways that have meaning to the individual and that context and meaning vary from individual to individual. In conversations with friends on any topic at all, I would watch how the conversation would develop and the turns that it would take to differing topics. One of us would mention something, and that something would have a particular list of associations in the memory of the other of us, and we would pick the most interesting or relevant association and share about it. Something in that sharing would create yet another association chain in memory, and off we would go on the tangent or fractal iteration of the conversation. 30 minutes to a couple hours and many conversational iterations later, the conversation would be nowhere near where it had started. Though these observations, I pondered over what it would take and how it would be accomplished to erase a person's memories. If you remember the earlier part of this book, I was always a good student of the sciences and still am. I wondered if they had a way to go into the brain and chemically or neurologically break the chains of memories to isolate a chunk from a particular time, removing it from the usual linkage or associative process of memory. Okay, skip that. Okay, now I'm going to read from my notes that I wrote. No, this is from the book, okay. I knew intuitively then and know now as a trained body-centered coach that the body and the feelings it feels do not lie. And energetically, even when physical memory engrams in the brain might be disrupted or it's suppressed, everything that happens to us is stored in our human energy field, our aura, and cannot be erased. It is part of our energetic soul record. So this is me briefly summarizing now. So she ends up getting raped at one of the underground secret Air Force bases by several men. They literally take turns with her, and after injecting her with some green carbonated looking fluid into her neck, the whole time 2 gray aliens are watching this happen as well. Later on, she gets taken into a ship with a gray flying so she gets raped by military men. I don't know if I said that. She gets taken onto a spaceship with a gray flying it, and they take her to the moon with the human guards standing watch as the craft leaves the Earth's atmosphere. Inside the ship are the other humans that have been raped, though she doesn't know if the men that are victims got raped too or not. She notices a reptilian with brown scales as a passenger of the spacecraft, and she feels that she's seen him before back in the lab where they would torture her. She mentions that there was a light tunnel as they entered outer space, which I'm assuming is like their warp drive to time travel. To travel from here to the moon in a super fast way, because she said they got to the moon from Earth super, super fast. And if you're seeing a light tunnel, then you're most likely warp driving. She says there was all kinds of facilities in the dark side of the moon, which is where the craft had landed. She says there's a lot of people working in these facilities, and she mentions the brown-scaled reptilian was super scary looking and that he was the one guarding the rape victims. Guarding them so that they don't like run amok, you know what I mean? Okay, now it says to read page 178. Okay, I was finding out just how much I could not afford to harbor fear in my body. Fear can hide in a lot of places in the mind and body. We just have to move through our process, and as we bump into those places, we take what time we need to let go of the fears or anxieties that are attached to the various parts of our lives. I resolved that I would never again allow fear to keep me from looking anywhere. Someone had given me a video about their encounters with fourth dimensional reptilians. It was a scary video. I didn't really want to look at it, but the fact that it scared me demanded it. I needed to know what was actually in it rather than just imagining, which was worse. The part of the video that was most disturbing was hearing that all spirit guides were actually manipulating fourth dimensional reptilians masquerading as nice spirit guides. I wondered if this was true. What if it was? Was I somehow being fooled? In the moments I contemplated these fears, I felt my guides, Skywalker, and my interdimensional teachers pull away from me. It was as if, energetically, they removed themselves from my immediate presence. No words, no counsel, no guidance about what I just watched, nothing at all, just gone or far, far, far away. That felt worse than contemplating the fear that they were reptilians, yet I felt frozen in my own fear considering such information. I wandered through this energy swamp for several weeks, wondering and uncertain. Then one day, in a quiet moment of my own insights, I knew that my guides were not reptilian. It can't be explained in terms of reasoning, logic, or analysis of the mind. There is a process of knowing by direct perception that is energetic and vibrational. It bypasses the mind. It is felt on multiple levels in the body in a way that cannot be faked. Or if it can be, then there is little point in going on living or trying to navigate life on any level. If our bodies and what we sense with them can be so completely fooled, then we are living a pointless existence. Nothing but targets for evil entities that milk our energy for their own purposes, trapped in a hell from which there can be no escape. My entire life is a testament that this is not the case. I can go on trusting my feelings or cave into a world of the mind ego, reacting to everything in my environment from fear or suspicion, a way of living that is no life at all. Okay. 186. Next is 186. Okay. So this is more about memory. I examined thoroughly what I knew experientially about thoughts and memory. I had learned a good deal about human biology throughout my life, most recently during 100 hours of anatomy and physiology while taking massage certification training. In meditation, I had experienced realms of inner space which pointed to a different reality where there was no space and no time, or at least where space and time were so different as to be completely outside human experience of them here in this reality on Earth. Inner space could be experienced while in the body, but it seemed to be a dimension neither encompassed within nor beyond the body, but rather a space, place, or point where consciousness was projected from into the body. In my metaphysical studies, I had learned that the pineal gland in the center of the brain is the point where the soul and consciousness joins with the body, at the chakra point known as the third eye. If our chakra system is made of little vortexes spinning our bodies into form from the universal energy field, perhaps individuated consciousness is the origin of and the focal point around which the spin revolves, creating and remaining connected to the human form. If this is true, then consciousness could be the origin of all spin in the universe. The Native American belief that all things, animate and inanimate, have an intangible spirit and are alive in some way would be very literally true if this could ever be proven. I learned in other metaphysical texts related to energy healing that everything that happens to us is recorded in our human energy field. This is evidenced by those sensitives who can see the human energy field or aura in full colors. To me, thought and memory are a product of our linear and experiential journey through the earth plane of existence. So something to the effect that our lives are like a movie reel or a film. The whole movie exists on the reel, all in the same instant as you hold it in your hands. But it requires time and space to experience it, to move through it. That is a simple explanation. Somehow I also felt that while this movie of our lives needed time and space to be experienced, our reactions and responses to life events are not fixed, but are, in a sense, fluid. When we decide to go one way at a certain crossroad in our lives, perhaps others of us take other paths and explore those other choices. The concepts of alternate realities have been explored in many movies and television shows. If all our experiences are recorded energetically, not only in our brain tissues, but in our human energy fields, then while one might be able to tamper with the tissues of the brain, thereby damaging the hardware to prevent access to the storage field of memory in the human aura, the memories are still there. According to spiritual and metaphysical teachings, all memories and knowledge also reside in the larger, other dimensional fields of what are known as the Akashic records, also called soul and oversoul records. If souls incarnate on Earth to gain experience, then it only makes sense that the universal consciousness, of which we are all a part of, would have some way of keeping the memories of experiences intact to glean the value from the learning through contrast process. I now feel that hypnosis and perhaps other forms of deep relaxation help our body-mind to access other dimensional sources of our memories, bypassing the brain's accessing hardware. Therein lies one of the huge remaining reasons for UFO secrecy. UFO secrecy is free energy secrecy. Hard on the heels of UFO and extraterrestrial disclosure will come knowledge of the type of energy that ET civilizations use and the demand for such energy, and an end to oil, gas, coal, and nuclear power will be immediate. Once out of the bottle, there will be no way for the free energy genie to ever be put back in. With free energy knowledge will also come the human awareness that the Earth and her people have been needlessly exploited for many decades, with direct and indirect loss of lives numbering in the billions, with environmental damage that will take generations to reverse, if it can even be reversed at all. While there are justifiable military reasons for secrecy, National Security Act of 1947 secrecy has given power mongers many organizations in which to hide, strengthening and refining their power over the planet and its people. Originally put in place for reasons of national security, such secrecy has almost utterly destroyed the national security of the people it is supposed to be protecting. If everything is one, if all that exists comes forth from the conscious living source itself, then where did the reptilians come from? What was their place in the grand design of the one consciousness? What contrast does one apparent evil have to show us? What does it have to teach us about ourselves? These are the questions for contemplation. After the destruction of Atlantis, what remained behind was also destroyed with the passage of time. The Great Library of Alexandria, in which some of the last Atlantean records were stored, was burned by either accident, vendetta, ignorance, or perhaps even by design. Other remnants of any records are either well protected, deliberately hidden, or both. Quantum science has discovered that all matter, energy, and vibration in this universe in every dimension is interconnected. Nothing and no one is separate from or stands outside this fundamental system of unity. Therefore, denying any part of reality is a denial of how it may be touching or affecting us, whether we consciously realize it or not. We are all entangled together at the level of consciousness, conceiving, shaping, and manifesting our reality. For any single individual or group to look at a particular piece of this reality and proclaim it as the absolute totality of all reality is simply incorrect. To ignore or shun any part of reality that is expressing itself is a continuation of the human collective psychological compartmentalization that manifests shadow governments, black projects, and covert ops and allows them to continue. Individually and collectively, we must bring the unconscious to conscious awareness. We must expand ourselves into the superconscious. Fear does not have any real power over us. It only has the power over us that we allow it to have. I'm just reading bullet points now. We see a world around us that looks solid, feels solid. It's made up of various parts and pieces. We can take things apart to find out what they're made out of and how they work. Yet, as science kept disassembling the world down further and further to the molecular, atomic, and subatomic, trying to better understand the structure of the universe, They discovered when they reached the quantum level that Newtonian physics no longer applied. At the level of energy, the basis of matter, they detected the mysterious action of quantum waves and particles. They identified the principles of non-local interconnectedness, and they also discovered that the act of observing brings our solid, seeming real world into existence. It is living beings imbued with consciousness that provide the meaningful, contextual observation for the quantum waves of potential to arrange themselves into the reality that we see around us. We have a collective human agreement about the reality of our world and everything in it. I'm running out of time, so I'm not going to read the page, but it's the top of page 359 till the middle part, so read that. I'm going to skip that part. Sorry, I'm just like running out of time all of a sudden. Okay. I have found through personal experience that the energy of fear in the body inhibits the expansion of extra-dimensional awareness. The more I moved beyond my fear, the more my consciousness began to light up. Greg Braden shares scientific findings that the energy of fear causes our very strands of DNA to wind up tightly, restricting any access to the parts of it that could hold the keys to our spiritual evolution. Cultivating the love, compassion, and joy inherent in understanding the very essence of who we truly are allows that DNA to unwind and relax. In this relaxed state, the energy waveforms of these positive, expansive emotions move through it, turning more and more of it on for our spiritual unfoldment. There is a likelihood that our DNA as a crystalline structure functions as a transmitter-receiver between our dimensional realities and source consciousness. Forgiveness is as such, if not more, about helping ourselves release and transform the past as it is about forgiving the person or persons who have harmed us. Whether they did it intentionally or not, it is like draining infection from a wound, slowly poisoning us from within so it can heal cleanly. Forgiveness can help bring us peace where there was once the turmoil of hurt, betrayal, and rage. As long as we do not forgive, we remain in an energetic entanglement with those who have hurt us. Anger and pain is periodically re-stimulated and re-justified through remembrance. Justifiable anger is some of the hardest to let go of, as there is a clear reason for it. The anger is valid regarding how we were violated. We know we were clearly harmed. Depending on how badly we were harmed, we can even justify never forgiving. But yet, if we never forgive, we condemn ourselves to a lifetime of entanglement with the offender. The malignancy of the animosity and bitterness we carry around inside toward them continues to fester. Even worse, if someone new shows up in our present moment who reminds us of that past offender in some way, in action or demeanor, we often mentally and emotionally time warp into our past, reacting sharply to the new person from the old wounds, even though the new person may actually have done very little to deserve such a reaction. When we forgive, we open a space for change and transformation in the person being forgiven. If they are no longer in an energy entanglement with us, then they could be presented with an opportunity to gaze more honestly upon themselves. A possibility for change could open up in them. Okay, Robert O'Dean held a cosmic top secret military security clearance while serving in the U.S. Army. While working in the Supreme Headquarters Operations Center, there was a report called An Assessment published in 1964. It was a study the military had done on extraterrestrials visiting Earth, reported to be about 12 inches thick. This study was initiated because of a 1961 UFO incident that could have started a nuclear war between the United States and the former Soviet Union. 3 UFOs were tracked on radar appearing to come out of Soviet airspace. Fortunately, reason prevailed over paranoia, and it was determined that they were true unidentified flying objects and were not of Soviet origin. To prevent such an incident from occurring again, the study that culminated in an assessment was done. 4 groups of extraterrestrials were identified in that report, including a group that looked so much like human beings as to be nearly indistinguishable from us. Other types were added in the following years. This is my last bullet point. She later mentioned that the rapes of the underground military men and the men on the moon stopped when one of the extraterrestrials told the men that they need to stop using her because everything that they're doing to her is being recorded and sent to others. And what the ET meant by that was Niara came into this human body from a Lyran body. As the human she is right now, she is transmitting in real time all her memories and happenings on Earth to her Lyran family in another dimension so that they can learn about humans. I guess the ETs on the moon did not want beef with them, so they stopped bothering her completely, to which they did, like literally stop bothering her completely. So her encounters with the military went on for I think 3 months, but she vaguely talked about it in like one chapter. Not vaguely, but she talked about it very little. I thought the whole book was going to cover that, and as much as I wanted the book to be all about that and like what the hell is going on in these secret labs and stuff, there was really not much detail given, other than a lot of people were being raped and a lot of people were giving this green substance that altered your spirituality or your chemical composition of your body. I don't know what happened. I don't know what it did, but it said it made her body feel like it was on fire, kind of. So if you want, read this book, check it out. I just wish there was more details as to all of the specifics of what's going on in these labs. I can only imagine, literally, out of all the knowledge that I have of all these spiritual and ET abduction books, literally anything's possible. Anything is possible, literally, like after all the videos I've done and all the information I've shared with you guys, anything's possible. So check out her book. It's on Amazon. I don't know where else you can find it, but that's Facing the Shadow and Embracing the Light.